Our final speaker is Tyran Jackson. Tyran Jackson has lived an amazing life. He got a bachelor's degree in engineering, 2 masters, one in engineering and one in business administration. And with all those accomplishments and accolades, he's still known difficulty and loss in his life. How many of you ever found yourself in a place where you lost your way and were trying to get back? Well, here to share a message on resilience, and he's an expert on it because he wrote the book on being reborn resilient. Help me welcome Tyran Jackson.
Thank you. I woke up because I was on fire. No, literally, I was on fire. My right foot was broken. My left foot was severed from my leg. I had a fractured pelvis, fractured vertebrae, bruised wrist, broken collarbone. Oh, yeah. And my right thigh was literally burning. It was cooking from the flames. And believe it or not, that wasn't the worst pain I'd ever have to feel. By show of hands, who here knows that sometimes life will throw us curveballs that we can't anticipate, things that we can't predict, things that we never see coming our way? But how are you going to bounce back when life knocks you down? Life will be altered in ways you never imagined. You have to find the resiliency and the strength from within in order to get back up and overcome those obstacles. And when I found myself waking up on the surface of that burning boat, I didn't realize it, but that was the start. That was the beginning of me and my true test of finding resilience. And for anybody out here who's gone through a challenge, an obstacle in your life, you have to understand that you can't let these unexpected obstacles keep you from fulfilling your purpose and your destiny in life. And as I was going through this, I had to realize something, what resilience truly was. Resilience is not regaining what was lost, but reshaping what remains. And it's how you react to that adversity that determines what you do with what still remains. Let me take you back 3 days prior, I was driving up to Nashville, Tennessee to drop my 12-year-old son, Cameron, off. Who here knows a 12-year-old or has been in the mindset of what a 12-year-old is like? Well, I was taking my 12-year-old son up to go stay with his aunt and uncle for a couple of days. I dropped my son, Cameron, off and said, son, I'll be back here 1 week from today to pick you up. And he was like, Dad, I'm good. You and Mom go have a good time. I'm going to be able to play with the dog and play with my cousins and eat ice cream late at night. I'm good. And I dropped him off and I left him thinking that, okay, my son is good. And I came back, and because my former wife, Malika, and I, we were getting ready to celebrate a momentous occasion. This was our 15th wedding anniversary. We were going to take a tropical vacation to the Bahamas for 5 days at an all-inclusive resort and have the time of our lives. And so we get to the Bahamas that next day. Let me tell you, the first 2 days were great. Got to spend some time at the beach, had some fruity drinks with umbrellas in them, time at the pool, get to eat some amazing meals. It was great. And on the third day, we thought we would be a little bit adventurous and do something a little different. We would actually leave the resort. We would go on a short excursion in order to tour the island, see what the island was like, see what other adventures were out there. So we wake up that morning, 6:30 in the morning. We're excited, we're eager. We go to breakfast. I had one of the most amazing omelets I've ever had. Malika, she was eating some fruit and some potatoes. We were all packed up, ready to go and enjoy this day. 7:30, we are at the edge of the resort, getting ready to wait for this bus to pick us up at 8 o'clock. We're the first couple there. We're sitting there watching as other couples are coming up, and we're thinking to ourselves, they're not ready for this day as much as we are, but that's okay. We're gonna have us a good time. And we start to get to know, talk to some of those couples. The bus arrives at 8 o'clock. We have a couple of stops along the way where we pick up people from other resorts, and we are really looking forward to this moment. We get to the marina where we're gonna check in for this excursion. 8:45, and we are eager. We are really looking forward to this time that we're going to have together. This was a perfect day up to this point. Everything great. We get checked in, and we start walking our way down the dock at 8:55. Now, there are two different piers, one for a half-day tour on the left, one for a full-day tour on the right. Most of the people who were there were going for the full day, but we thought we would go on the half-day tour because I had actually had plans to go back golfing when we got back to the resort that afternoon. So I was like, okay, we're going to enjoy this moment right here, but we're going to be able to get back and have some more fun a little bit later. So 9 o'clock, we're on the boat, getting ready to take off. And I sit down next to Malika and I have my right arm over. It's a perfect 78 degrees out there, sun shining. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the best moment of my life. And at 9:08, I wake up, face down, leg on fire, not knowing what happened. Unbeknownst to us, there was a fuel leak emanating from the fuel tank that was right below where we were sitting. Luckily, that second boat wasn't too far away from us, and there were passengers on that boat that were at risk their lives to come over and pull me off. And as I came to, my first question was, where's Malika? Well, Malika was thrown into a different direction. There was another boat that picked her up and took her to shore and took her to a clinic. And when they got me to shore, they said, we've got to put you on the back of a pickup truck on a piece of plywood to take you to that same clinic to see what they can do to help you out. So here I am, riding on the back of a pickup truck, get to this clinic, they put me on a stretcher. And as I'm being wheeled into this clinic, that's the first time I hear Malika. I hear her moans, her agony, her screams. She is suffering. She is fighting for her life. And I can't do anything about it. Now there's 3 bays in this clinic. Malika's in the first bay. There's another passenger in the second bay. And then they put me in the third bay. There's one doctor there. And I'm trying to keep myself as still as possible and pray and think to myself, dear Lord, I hope that my wife is okay. After some time, the one doctor comes over to me, and my first question to him is, how is my wife? And he tells me, we're taking you and this one other passenger, and we're sending you to the good hospital because we can't treat you here. And I asked him, well, what about my wife? Well, he said, she's coming later. Okay, so now I'm at a place where I'm trying to come to grips with the fact that, okay, she must be better off than I am because they're sending me and this one other person to the hospital. They put me back on the stretcher again, put me on an ambulance, put me on an airport. I'm flying to the good hospital. And as soon as I get there, I ask them, where's my wife? Nobody says anything. They prepare me to go into surgery. Now, remember, I told you earlier, my left foot was severed. So what they wanted to do was try to reattach what was left of my foot to my leg. So I found myself going into surgery and 3 hours later waking up. 2 doctors come in the room as I'm in there in ICU recovering. And my first question is, where is my wife? The 2 doctors, they look at each other. Then they walk out the room. And I'm saying to myself, this is the most obvious question I could be asking at this point in time. Why won't they answer me? After about 3 minutes, they come back in. They tell me, Mr. Jackson, we hate to inform you, but your wife didn't make it. Now, here I am. I'm an eternal optimist. And I'm thinking to myself, my wife didn't make it. What they mean is that there must have been a problem with the one airplane that was going back to the clinic and back to the hospital. No. She died at that clinic. We didn't want to tell you that before you had to come here. So when I talk about that pain, physical pain of having those bruised ribs, fractured vertebrae, fractured pelvis, that was nothing compared to the pain of the heartbreak that I had having to get those words that my wife was no longer here. I cried myself to sleep that night. I was so hurt and distraught. And then the next morning, as I'm still trying to process what's going on, I had to call that 12-year-old boy who I dropped off with his aunt and uncle and tell him over the phone, son, your mom and dad have been in an accident and your mom's not coming home. Ah! To hear him on the other end of that line, in his pain and not really understanding what happened. Mom and dad go on vacation all the time. And this time, Mom's not coming home. Brought me to tears again. So hard to have to do. And then, to make matters worse, later that afternoon, as I'm in the hospital, and I'm laying there, and that surgery that they did to try to reattach my foot, well, my foot was infected, and infection was starting to go through my body. So as I'm laying there, I'm seeing the EKG monitor over my head, and I see all my vitals go from green to yellow to red. And I lay there, and I'm praying to God, and I'm saying, okay, you've already taken my wife. I've had to break my son's heart and tell him she's not coming back. And now I'm coming to grips with the fact that I'm about to die as well. What did we ever do to deserve this? I thought when I closed my eyes that night that I would never wake up again. Now, by the grace of God, I did wake up again. And luckily, there were actions being taken place behind the scenes that got me out of the hospital in the Bahamas and got me to a trauma unit in Florida where they told my family who had flown down that we have to do whatever we can to make sure that he survives. And the next thing I know, it was an emergency surgery, and I wake up and my left leg is gone. 2 days later, I have to go through 4 surgeries in one day just to start putting the rest of the pieces back together physically. But the day after that, that's where clarity started to set in. And I started to understand the fact that my life was going to be different, that God was keeping me here. God told me if I wanted to take you, I could have taken you when that boat exploded. I could have taken you when your vitals were from green to yellow to red. I could have taken you when you went through these 4 surgeries and you were unstable, but you're here. And the message that he told me was that, Tyran, be resilient. Be resilient. He said that through resilience, you'll not only survive, but you'll thrive. And at that point in time, I didn't know what resilience was. What is resilience? Resilience is not about regaining what was lost. It's about reshaping what remains. And at that moment, that was the start of me understanding that there is such a thing as a roadmap to resilience, which over the course of the past 4 years I've developed. And since I only got 10 minutes here today, I can't go through the whole roadmap, but I'm going to give you the map of resilience in order to show you how you can overcome the obstacles that you face in your life. When we start off with this map, the first letter is motivation. Motivation. What is motivation? What's going to get you up and out of bed and have you doing what you need to do in order to improve your life, in order to make it better? It was about 4 weeks after the accident. I was physically recovering, and I had no will. I was depressed. I was suffering from anxiety. I had survivor's remorse, guilt, grief, and I didn't want to do anything. No physical therapy, no counseling, no none of this. And as I was laying in the bed, I reflected back on a conversation that Malika and I had. It was about a year ago, a year before the accident, and we were down in our basement. We were watching a movie. It was one of these movies where somebody tragically passed away, and it led to one of these what-if questions. What if something were to happen to me? What would you want me to do? Well, Malika, she thought for a second, and then she looked at me and said, Ty, if something were to happen to me, I wouldn't want you to grieve for too long. I would want you to go back out there and find happiness again. Then she gave me a list, and on this list were the names of 7 women that she said, under no circumstances do I want you to have them in my house, have them around you, have them around my kid. But the last thing that she said was the most important thing. She said, Ty, I want you to do everything you can to make sure that the only part of me that's still left on this earth is well taken care of. And that was our son, Cameron. And so when I had to think about what was going to keep me going, what was going to get me to get out of bed, to do what I needed to do so I could be strong for him, I had to think about my promise, my commitment to her, to get me going. And now I ask you this, what is your motivation when you come into a challenge, when you come into an obstacle? What is your why? If you can identify that reason why, then that should be able to get you up and get you going. So the first step of this map of motivation, or map of resilience, is the motivation. The next piece is your attitude. What is your attitude? What are your thoughts, your beliefs, the way that you view yourself and the things that are in your past? Now, I had every reason in the world to feel sorry for myself, every reason to feel bad. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm an eternal optimist. And even though I was in this bad situation, look at the smile on that guy. He is still happy. He is still trying to figure out what is the blessing in this breakdown. And so as I started to have the right attitude about, okay, I've got to recover. I got to be stronger for Cameron. I got to be able to move forward. I got to have the right approach towards what I need to do in order to recover. And over time, sprinkle in a little bit of discipline and consistency in that. I got to a place where, okay, I might be able to get fitted for a prosthetic. The doctors told me it would be 8 months before I'd walk again. I was walking in 3.5 months. And then doing what I needed to do, the physical therapy, the working out, the getting stronger, getting better, led to me being able to start doing things amazing, such as being able to walk, run, jump over boxes, even though I was dealing with so much pain and adversity. And 6 months after the event, I ran my first 5K. I was never a runner. But to think about it, to go from a place where you're bedridden for 3 months and have to be pushed around in a wheelchair in order to move, to being able to run, was all due to the attitude that I had and the attitude that people helped me put into me in order for me to move forward. So if you're struggling and if you're challenging, ask yourself, what is your attitude? Are you looking at the glass half empty? Or are you looking at it half full? Attitude is key. Then the last thing that I want to talk about is the process. What is the process? I define process as a specific set of actions that take you from where you are to where you want to go. Everywhere you got in life, your mind got there first. You have to visualize. You have to have an understanding of where you want to be and what you want to do. But it's not just as simple as thinking of where the destination is and where I want to be, but it has to be thought through. It has to be guided. It has to be specific. A lot of us live life thinking that we're just going to let life happen to us. And we're going to let luck and hope control where we end up. But when you think about it, it's a process, it's a plan, it's a set of actions that get you closer and closer to where you want it to be. I didn't think I wanted to be a speaker, but I was starting to speak. And before I knew it, I was learning how to speak and getting better and better at being able to understand my message and realizing that there's power in the words that we have. And as I started speaking, it led to some other things that led to being able to take the insight that I had from developing this roadmap to resilience to writing a book on resilience, choosing resilience, because resilience is a choice. And this was part of that process. And as this process was coming together, I was making progress. And even to a place where you find yourself on stages that you don't realize you can get on. But this is all because of the continuous improvement. Back to the other elements that I don't have in this presentation, talking about having the obsession towards the right things, having the right discipline, and accepting the reality. All of these feed into taking that step, those steps, and finding that right process to get to where you want to get to. Now, as I conclude, I want to let you know that I stand here before you as a man that's been transformed. Life has caused me to go in a different direction than where I started, where I thought it was going to be, but it didn't have to be bad. Now, I don't know what adversity, what obstacles, what challenges that you all have, but think about that. What are you going to do when you're facing the next challenge and obstacle in your life? Are you going to sit there and complain about why you can't do the things you need to do? Or are you going to choose to be resilient? Resilience is not about regaining what was lost. It's done. We can't go back there. But what are you going to do to reshape what remains? My name is Tyran Jackson. I'm a man who's been reborn resilient, and I thank you for listening to me today. And I hope you walk away inspired that you can overcome whatever challenges and obstacles in your life. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good.
Outstanding. Y'all give it up one more time for Tyran Jackson. Not only does he make excellent speeches, he also makes excellent fraternity decisions.
Yes, he does.
Y'all want to help him get better? Well, help me welcome back our celebrity coaches, Darren LaCroix, Mark Brown.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
All right.
Mark.
All right, brother. Darren LaCroix. man. So much.
If we could just get you a little more enthusiastic.
Just a little bit.
That'd be
work
great.
on that.
No, I love what you do. I love your story. The slide that you have at the end, I wrote down, bring that up sooner. Like, it's good. Come back to it at the end. But especially for us visual learners to be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, because some people might even take a picture of it, I might have like a little logo here or your URL or a picture of your book.
It was blue. Yeah, I had it on there. It was,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was a white logo.
I can't see the
yeah.
invisible
White
one.
on
Sorry.
white doesn't always work. I'm not being ethnic, just so you know. I guess. I'm just saying. Right?
Nice.
All right. No.
Go ahead, Mark.
Great.
By the way, I think our Zoom crowd, you're hanging with us. We appreciate y'all. The Zoom crowd back there. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I'm going to just jump into, I can be honest with you. I know that. You show a slide, a dual slide, you and your bride, and the burning boat. The suspense you open with is great. You're on fire, you're burning. You went quickly through the list of injuries, and I couldn't quite catch all of them. But you mentioned the burning boat, and then later on, you showed a picture of you and your bride and the boat while you tell the story. My suggestion is not mentioning the boat. Start with the injuries, the pain. We don't know what happened. Then take us through that day, and I would say shorten that journey of the morning. Get there quicker, and then reveal to us exactly what happened. Then we see the boat later. So we were wondering what happened. We're seeing the boat, but you're going on the bus to get to the piers. So we see it too soon. Darren?
Got it.
Can you go back to your map slide, MAP? Okay, one thing I would highly recommend for everyone, step to the side just so they can see it too. But I would put resilience, to remind us what this is going to help us with, because we all need resilience. So I like the idea. I would just kind of tie that back to us. Mark?
An option there also is to highlight the first letter, the different color. So we see it's MAP. It's a short thought to share with you. I love 9:08 a.m. You know, we are 10, 30, 12. No, 9:08 is, I'm going to remember that, okay?
Specificity breeds memorability.
You said early on, you said, how many of you know that life will throw you a curveball? And you give a list. You remember that question? How many of you know? I don't like how many is a number. How many is like, how many days in a week? 6. No, it's 7. Okay, but consider this. Consider this.
Yep.
Have you ever been thrown a curveball in your life? So now it's about them.
Yeah.
And then we now connect to you as opposed to how many of you had too nebulous. Darren?
Yeah. Notice what Mark did. He raised their hand, encouraging them without having to say, raise your hand if. How many of you, like that just brings it up. These are tiny, subtle, world-class things.
No, it's okay. And for those who are more educated than I am, I learned some time ago, that's called activating the mirror neuron. What that does is you lead and the audience follows, because we want to mirror your action. It's a very effective technique. Darren?
The greatest advice that I got from Mark that was my game changer when he was working on my speech, I want to pass on to you. It's on your list at the beginning. It's dialogue. Dialogue. Tell your stories in dialogue. You told us about your stories. You didn't bring us to the moment. I'll give you a couple quick examples, but revisit each of your stories and say, okay, how could I bring them to the moment? Lou Heckler, great speaker coach, says, take us, don't tell us. I told things in the past. Mark reminded me. So for you, I would love to, the first story, like that's something, get a coach, get some help with that, because it's so powerful as it is. It could be magical. You get that story right, we're going with you the whole time. But for example, you told us about your leg burning. Internal dialogue, a little deeper, more powerful. We hear your thoughts. You told us your leg was burning. My leg, what? It's burning. What's like?
Yeah.
Now you're reliving it. Now you may not want to relive that one, but when you when you went to, you saw your EKG, you told us it went from green to yellow to red. I want to witness you watching it. EKG, green to yellow? That's not good. Red? Oh, man. Okay.
Got it.
So, again, same principle. Mark?
The depth of emotion that you feel will connect you to your audience. Because at some point, some of us have gone through some experience where we can mirror it. You give a line in here, which could be a sub-thread in your speech. You said about the blessing and the breakdown.
Mhm.
You could ask your audience, when you go through difficult times and you need to be resilient, ask yourself, what is the blessing in my breakdown?
Yeah.
See the reaction
Yeah,
there?
see that. Yeah.
Make it about them again. MG, you're so good to me, right? I'll ask yourself, what is the blessing in my breakdown? So use your story as inspiration
Right.
and magnify the call to action so we can believe that we can be resilient as well. That's my last thought.
Okay. No, that's great.
And I'm going to go into this using the stage as a timeline. When you go back to your first conversation with your wife, bring us over here. Let's go back to a year prior to the event. Okay.
Okay.
It helps us stay with you. Very subtle, very simple, and we'll get into that shortly. But
Okay.
amazing job. You're a remarkable man.
Thank you,
Tyran.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mark. Oh, stay up there for a second.
One more time, give it up for Tyran Jackson. Brother Tyran, we pass you the mic officially.
I'll take the mic.
Graduate of Professional Speakers Academy and the ranks of professional speakers in National Speakers Association, Georgia. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All of these cameras. Here he is, right here. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And by the way, that's the only mic you can drop that doesn't piss off the audio people.
Okay. Okay.
All right, bring the love. Y'all give it up for Tyran Jackson. Awesome, awesome, awesome.